Welcome back, everyone, for our final season. And wow, are we going out with a bang because we're diving into modern India.
A fascinating choice.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a vast and vibrant landscape. We're talking about a civilization that's thousands of years old.
Right. And then suddenly, boom, it's thrust onto the world stage after centuries of colonial rule.
It's almost like stepping into a time machine where the past and the future are colliding right before your eyes.
And that's precisely what makes this period so captivating. It's not just about dates and names, it's about a nation undergoing a truly remarkable transformation.
A transformation that's still unfolding to this day.
Exactly. We're talking about economic growth that's lifted millions out of poverty, technological advancements that have put India at the forefront of innovation.
And social reforms that are reshaping the very fabric of society. It's mind-boggling when you think about the sheer scale of it all.
Absolutely. And to really grasp the magnitude of this transformation, we need to rewind a bit before we jump into the post-independence era.
Okay, so back to the basics.
Well, not quite basics, but we need to lay the groundwork by examining the East India Company's role in shaping the landscape of modern India.
Ah, yes, the infamous East India Company. So they arrive on the scene in the 1700s, right? With their ships laden with spices and dreams of riches.
That's the image, but it's important to remember that their ambitions quickly grew beyond just trade.
Of course, they wanted to control it all, didn't they?
In a way, yes. By 1772, they had appointed Warren Hastings as the first Governor General of Bengal. His task was to establish some kind of governance in a region that was already in turmoil, partly due to the company's own actions.
Wow, talk about a challenge. So Hastings is basically handed this enormous responsibility of governing a land and people that the British knew very little about.
Precisely, it was a massive undertaking, and Hastings faced a steep learning curve he needed to establish a system of governance. But the British had limited experience in managing a population as diverse and vast as India's.
So what did he do? Did he try to impose a completely British system on India?
Well, he did lay the foundation for British rule, but what's fascinating is that he also ended up adapting some of the existing Mughal administrative practices. Remember, the Mughal Empire had been in decline, but its influence hadn't completely vanished.
So it's not a clean break from the past. It's more like the British are building upon what was already there.
Exactly. It's a blend, a fusion of influences. For instance, the company continued to acknowledge the Mughal emperor in Delhi, even though his power had dwindled. Coins still bore his image. Persian remained the official language for a considerable time, and the company continued to support religious institutions, much like the Mughals had done it, created this unique hybrid system of governance with elements of both British and Indian traditions.
It almost sounds like the British were inadvertently preserving aspects of Mughal rule, even as they were trying to establish their own authority.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it? And this blend of influences would become even more pronounced when the British Crown took direct control of India in 1858, marking the beginning of the British Raj.
The Raj. Okay, so we're moving from company rule to direct crown rule. What kind of shift did this represent for India?
Well, with the Crown in charge, there was a push for greater centralization and uniformity in administration. New policies were introduced, and the impact on Indian society intensified.
Setting the stage for the rise of nationalism and eventually the struggle for independence.
Precisely, but that's a story for our next installment. Last time we left off with the British Crown taking direct control of India, ushering in the era of the Raj.
Right, so it's 1858, and what's the scene like? What changes are the British making?
Well, as I mentioned, there's this big push for centralization. They're trying to streamline the administration, create a more uniform legal system, and from their perspective, bring a sense of order to this vast and complex land.
Makes sense. They want to impose their own systems and structures.
Exactly. They invest in infrastructure like railways and telegraph lines, expand their control over various aspects of life. It's a period of rapid change.
And I imagine not all of it was welcomed by the Indian population.
You're right, there were growing tensions. Many Indians, especially the educated elite, felt like they were being treated as second-class citizens in their own country.
Like that controversy over the Ilbert Bill in the 1880s. Wasn't it about allowing Indian judges to try cases involving Europeans?
That's the one. It caused a huge uproar among the British community in India.
Yeah.
They couldn't fathom the idea of being judged by an Indian no matter how qualified.
It really highlights the deep-seated racism and prejudice at play.
Absolutely. And this is where we start to see the rise of organized movements for change groups like the Indian Association, advocating for greater Indian participation in government.
Of course, the Indian National Congress, which
Yeah.
would become a major force in the fight for independence.
Right. The Congress was formed in 1885, and it quickly gained momentum, but even within the movement, there were different perspectives on how to achieve their goals.
So not everyone agreed on the best way forward.
Exactly. Some advocated for gradual reform within the existing system, while others demanded complete self-rule, and then you have the rise of the Muslim League in 1906.
Adding another layer of complexity to the mix.
Indeed, the Muslim League began advocating for separate electorates for Muslims, reflecting the growing anxieties and aspirations of different communities within India.
It's a reminder that the struggle for independence wasn't just about kicking out the British. It was also about figuring out what a free India would look like.
Absolutely. And those questions of representation and identity would continue to shape India's journey long after independence.
And speaking of independence, there was one event in 1942, the Cripps Mission. Do you want to tell us about that?
Ah, yes. The Cripps Mission, a last-ditch effort by the British to offer India some form of self-governance within the empire.
But it wasn't enough, was it?
No, the Congress demanded full independence, and the mission ultimately failed, which set the stage for the final push towards freedom.
But that freedom came at a heavy price. The partition of the country into India and Pakistan, leading to mass displacement and violence.
A tragic chapter in India's story, but even amidst the chaos and upheaval, there was this incredible sense of hope and optimism for the future.
The birth of a new nation full of possibilities, but also facing enormous challenges.
Exactly, and that's what we'll be exploring next, how India tackled the daunting tasks of nation-building, economic development, and social transformation in those early years of independence.
From the East India Company's arrival to the birth of an independent India, it's been quite a journey.
It really highlights how much history shapes the present.
It does. And as we stand on the cusp of contemporary India, it's fascinating to see how those historical forces continue to play out. How did a nation that had just emerged from colonial rule, grappling with poverty and internal divisions, manage to forge a path towards economic growth and social progress?
It definitely wasn't a smooth or easy journey. There were missteps and setbacks, periods of intense struggle, but there was also this remarkable resilience, a determination to build a better future. And one of the first hurdles they had to tackle was food security for a rapidly growing population.
Right, and that's where the Green Revolution comes in.
Exactly. In the 1960s, India adopted high-yielding crop varieties and modern agricultural techniques. It led to a dramatic increase in food production, helping to avert famine and putting India on the path to self-sufficiency.
It's often hailed as a huge success story.
It was, but it's important to acknowledge that the benefits weren't evenly distributed. Regions with larger farms and better irrigation infrastructure reaped the most rewards, while smaller farmers in certain regions lagged behind.
So progress often comes with a price.
That's right, and it highlights the ongoing challenge of ensuring that the benefits of economic growth reach all segments of society. And speaking of complexities, let's not forget the political landscape of post-independence. India, we saw periods of political instability, the rise and fall of powerful leaders, moments of intense social and religious tension.
Like the emergency imposed by Indira Gandhi in the 1970s.
A controversial period indeed. Indira Gandhi, facing growing opposition and economic challenges, declared a state of emergency, suspending civil liberties and clamping down on dissent.
A dark chapter in India's democratic history.
It was a reminder of the fragility of institutions and the importance of safeguarding civil rights. And then, of course, there's the assassination of Indira Gandhi by her Sikh bodyguards in 1984, followed by the tragic anti-Sikh riots.
A horrific event that left a deep scar on the nation.
It certainly did a reminder of the deep divisions that existed within Indian society and the dangers of political violence and communal hatred.
So even as India was striving for economic progress and making its mark on the world stage, it was also wrestling with internal conflicts and the legacy of this past.
Exactly. It's a story of remarkable achievements, but also of ongoing struggles. And as we move forward in this final season, we'll delve deeper into the economic transformations, the technological advancements, the social changes that have shaped contemporary India.
We'll explore the rise of a globalized economy, the challenges of environmental sustainability, and the evolving role of India on the international stage.
It's a story that continues to unfold, and we invite you to join us as we explore the complexities and the possibilities of modern India.
For you, our listener, we hope this deep dive into modern India sparks your curiosity and prompts you to consider the lessons we can learn from this extraordinary nation's journey. What resonates with you? What questions do you have about India's place in the world? Keep those questions in mind as we continue our exploration. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.